Hello. Glad to be with you again. And I have to tell you that I'm really grateful for the library administrator. She's allowed me to come here to the library and use her laptop to be able to conduct this interview, because where I'm staying out in the country, I don't have internet service. So thanks to someone who is very generous, I'm able to do this interview with you.
Yeah, you live in Kansas now.
Yes.
Yeah, and you are going to talk about your research, that you are going to continue your research with the Illuminati, the bloodlines, or?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I would enjoy doing that. I get asked the question, Alexandra, by people, well, where do you start to research the Illuminati? And so that question will be answered in some ways today. Also, we'll pad out or give some more information on some of the things and people that you know. And so I was going to start with William Cornelius Van Duyn and talk a little bit about that, which was going to allow me to talk about his right-hand man, who comes from an important Illuminati family. And then from there, I was going to talk about how the Illuminati like to set themselves up, and they like to fancy themselves as being the defenders of freedom and liberty. So the Jacobins called themselves the Society of the Friends of the Constitution. You know, we're defenders of what is noble, and how they this is what I'll be talking about today. My plans were to talk about things that I haven't written about, and so those people who have read my books will be receiving new stuff. Yeah, there he is.
Picture of William.
Hey, good picture of him. That's one of his better pictures.
Yeah, is it? Have you got this picture from
No.
William Van Duyn?
I was going to discuss some about their revolution started in terms of Europe, and then seg into the political dynasty of the Nehru-Gandhi political dynasty in India, which is an elite family, and show how the Illuminati was involved with all of that. Because as strange as it seems, or for those of us that are in the know, you know, those of us who are aware of things, awake, as they say, we realize that we don't have all these so-called democracies where people are electing who they want, but our candidates are selected and the elections are rigged. And so here we have this political dynasty of the Nehru-Gandhi family. For 40 years, they control India. And people in the press say, see, that's proof that India is a democracy. It's proof, huh? That you got this family that's similar to the British monarchy and has the glamour of the Kennedy clan over here in the United States. And that's proof of democracy, you know. It's amazing what the press they'll take, to use an American expression, you know, take a sow's ear and turn it into silk. So anyway, that's the direction I wanted to go today.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm very curious what you are going to tell us today.
Yeah, you can kind of see to some degree why I haven't talked. I will explain why I haven't written or talked about some of these things before. But when I was going back and forth with William Van Duyn, or you pronounce it differently, and that's another thing that we're going to have here is some of these names are pronounced differently, and I may not pronounce them correctly, or I may not pronounce them like you would or they would. You know, in Belgium, I was going to start out talking about Belgium because that's where the Van Duyn family is headquartered or centered. And, you know, I'm sure that they pronounce it differently over there. You got half of the country speaking in French, the other half speaking Dutch, and then even that between the French and the Dutch, I'm sure they have different pronunciations for these. But his right-hand man is David de Marodi. And so I was going to talk about the de Marodi family today because when I was talking with these people, there was like a detente. You know what I mean by a detente. For those that are listening that may not be aware, just a second, this computer's trying to load software, which is not what we want to do right now. Unbelievable. These computers have a mind of their own. But anyway, let's see. So I was talking about the Van Duyn family, I believe, or was I?
Right.
I lost my train of thought there because of this.
You were talking about his right hand.
Yeah. Well, going back to the Van Duyn family, one thing that I had learned back in 1991 is the Van Duyn of all of these elite families was more secretive, but they were also, in terms of their own people, more upfront. So if you were a member of the Van Duyn family and you were being initiated into the Illuminati, they wanted you to totally volunteer to join. They wanted your allegiance. In contrast with some of these other bloodlines, they had their members under mind control so that when they were initiated, it wasn't really a full voluntary thing because they were being coerced into joining. You know, you were born into this family, so you're not going to leave the family. You're going to honor the family, and you're going to join, whether you like it or not. But the Van Duyns were more, they wanted their people to sincerely be involved. And so there is this sort of a flavor, you might say, to the Van Duyns, where they're a little bit more nicer in a way. I don't know. I haven't thought of the right way to describe it, but there's a certain pleasant aspect to them. And so David de Marodi, who's William's right-hand man, he's totally loyal to his master. He's you know, and because I was in this detente situation where they were respecting me, I was respecting them. I haven't tried to expose the de Marodi family. Well, who are the de Marodis? Well, first I should explain de Marodi is the French name, French way of the name. But if you go to Belgium, it's Van Marodi. If you go to Germany, it's Van Marodi. So it changes slightly as you go across international, the old international boundaries before the EU. But there's 5 princely aristocratic Belgium families, get that to come out correctly, and one of them's de Marodi, and they they all go back genealogically back to this brother of the King of Aragon. You know, Aragon was a kingdom that became part of the Kingdom of Spain later. And so it all goes back to this Charles guy who was a brother of the King of Aragon. They're all descendants of him. And the family was very prominent in the Belgian Revolution in setting up the country of Belgium. And So when people ask me where they should go to start researching the Illuminati, they really should go to like the Dutroux affair, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. They should go to Belgium politics, because here we have a little nation created out of nothing. And I mean, Belgium got everybody's sympathy in World War I and World War II, because poor neutral Belgium got invaded by the nasty Germans and had their neutrality violated. And then the British managed to make a lot of propaganda stories about Belgian women being raped and eaten and who knows what else to win the world's sympathy to go to war with the British. But Belgium was given the crown jewels of Africa, so to speak. They were given the Congo, which is so rich in diamonds and all these other precious. Africa was given to little Belgium, and nobody protested. I mean, this is the aristocracy of Belgium and the royalty of Belgium got filthy rich, you know, because they were given the crown jewels of Africa. And you have to wonder, why did all this happen? You know, well, it happened because it was something that the Illuminati wanted to happen. So this family I'm talking about, de Marodi, they have over 7 castles in Belgium. The Westerlo Castle, the Chateau de Serrant, and these castles, some of these castles were involved with, and you're probably familiar with the Dutroux affair in the late 90s, this scandal that broke. And by the way, interrupting my train of thought, but there was a guy named Marcel, and because he exposed the Dutroux satanic pedophilia ring that involved the Belgian government and royalty and everything, for his troubles, they put him in jail, in prison. So actually, you and I have come out pretty easy compared to some of the people that were involved in exposing the Dutroux affair, because about 110 of them got assassinated. And so you and I have gotten off kind of easy.
So far.
But, you know, so far.
Yeah, but you said in prison 8 years.
Yeah, but, you know, there were some benefits to that. So this Marcel Vervleesen, I'm not pronouncing it correctly, I'm sure. But anyway, he was an activist that, like yourself, that was exposing things, and they don't like that. So, but there were two people, and I wasn't the one who initially exposed them. Other people over there in Belgium exposed them, but there were 2 de Marodis connected to the Dutroux affair. And Prince Alexander, and that guy was pretty nasty. He was identified by witnesses as, you know, doing black masses, eating human body parts, drinking blood, you know, the whole and pedophilia. He is a nasty character. And then there was Prince Simon de Marodi. So there were a couple of the de Marodis that were identified in the scandal. And as you know, Marc Dutroux took the fall for this whole thing, and they had to keep a cap on the whole thing getting out of hand. They had to kill about 110 of the witnesses of all of this satanic pedophilia. So anyway, I had exposed that before I found out David de Marodi's name, you know, and was visiting with him. So I was, you know, I'm kind of grateful that they didn't have more hostile feelings towards me. But the de Marodi family, just to give you an idea of how prominent they've been. So the mayor of Brussels was a de Marodi in 1805. You had Pope Pius IX. His right-hand person was a de Marodi. By the way, speaking of the Dutroux scandal, a lot of those guys that were connected to the Dutroux satanic pedophilia ring were connected to Opus Dei, which is a Catholic thing. And the Van Duyn family, you know, he went to a Catholic university. So this whole thing connects in with the Catholic Church too, you know. I mean, it's all mixed in together. And then Alexander de Marodi has been the vice president of the International Olympic Committee. So these people are in positions. The de Marodi family has played a very active role in Belgian politics. And so the Belgian royalty was connected to this whole scandal. Of course, it's illegal in Belgium to do any criminal charges against the royal family. So this computer is going to is going to keep interrupting me wanting to load software. Did you see that? Did you see that come up on the screen? Oh, well, that's good. Okay, so I was talking about Opus Dei and how the Catholic Church, William Van Duyn went to a Catholic university. So the Catholic Church and the, you know, these Illuminati people in Brussels is like headquarters. So if somebody's wanting to investigate the Illuminati, go and look what a big role Brussels has played. And later, when I get to the Nehru family, you know, so the head of the patriarch of Nehru family, he was brought in 1927 to the League Against Imperialism, which was an organization that began and had their conference, 10-day conference in Brussels. You know, if you look at Karl Marx, where he and other people like him centered, Brussels. Brussels has been like the center of a lot of this stuff. So if people want to investigate the Illuminati, look into who's running Brussels, what's going on in Brussels. You know, later you will see that some of the people I was going to talk about, I was going to talk about Attlee, who was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in 1947. You know, and he's helped set up NATO in 1966. Guess where NATO got headquartered? In Brussels. Fancy that, you know. So you're real close to all of this. I'm further away. I'm here in the middle of America. You're there, not that far actually from Brussels. And so this Mother of Darkness castle that I exposed in 1991 is there in Belgium near Muno, and then, like I've said, this isn't something new. I've said this, I don't know, with you or in other interviews, that I learned that they abandoned that as the female headquarters, and they've moved their rituals and so forth somewhere else because there was just too much public attention on the Chateau de Ameroy, which was the Mother of Darkness castle. So, you know, now I'm getting this message, my internet connection is unstable. But as long as this works, let's continue. So the de Marodis, they were one of the 5 princely families. And if we go back in European history, you'll see that the Illuminati, they participated in the American Revolution, but then the Americans were wanting to get their liberty anyway, so it didn't take much pushing to have the colonialists rebel against Great Britain. And but you had this process that the Illuminati members would like to set themselves up as defenders of freedom. And this is important for people to understand how this all works, because, you know, like some of the people that we're going to discuss, they may call themselves atheists, or they may hide behind their, you know, I'm a Catholic. They got different fronts, but atheism can be a front for Luciferianism. And, but when you look at what the atheist, like in our culture today, what they're promoting is basically Luciferianism. And it's this concept that, you know, the creator is this cruel God, but this Prometheus-like Lucifer came and he gave man all of this knowledge so that we can invent all this stuff and mankind can elevate himself. And so there's a lot of humanism in it. There's a lot of, oh, you know, the rights of man and all of this. But then just like in India that I'm going to talk about, you know, where they talk about, oh, we're going to free ourselves from the British and we're going to have democracy for India. And then you have this one Kashmiri Brahmin family, the Nehru Gandhi family, that controls India for 40 years. You know, it's like, yeah, you really got away from aristocracy and royalty. You just traded one batch of rulers for another. But people don't think it through, you know. They go with the propaganda and and that's so the controlled press, which is owned by these people, it tells people what to think, and people just it never ceases to amaze me. I watch intelligent people around me, and they listen to the controlled media, and whatever the controlled media tells them, that's the truth. You know, they're convinced of it. They don't think it through. They think that the controlled media has their best interest at heart, and that they're going to hear the full truth from these people. These are their friends, you know. And so, so anyway, I had a friend. He's still a friend, amazingly, because my situation has been tenuous and I haven't been able to get around and do as much. My friend Damien Chapa, who was a director in Hollywood, who's been trying to expose all this stuff that we've been trying to expose, he's still my friend, and I just haven't been able to help him and participate in the things that he wanted me to. And fortunately, he has had patience with me. But he went over to Bavaria, and he went to these museums where the Bavarian Illuminati's documents and artifacts were located. Supposedly, these are accessible to the public. But he got so much grief, and the museum curators were so difficult and tried to prevent him from seeing this stuff. Long story short, you can tell that the Illuminati, including the Bavarian Illuminati, is alive and well. I mean, the kind of opposition he got to see this stuff, supposedly the Bavarian Illuminati no longer exists. So why would anyone care if you were looking at its old documents, you know? So the Bavarian Illuminati was supposedly shut down, but the Jacobin Club, which Napoleon belonged to, Napoleon was a Freemason, a high-ranking Freemason, as well as a Jacobin. The Jacobin Club in France was the Illuminati. If you want to look at who the Illuminati are, go back and research who the leaders of the Jacobin Club was. And they called themselves the Friends of Freedom and Equality. You know, just like the Freemasons talk about liberty, brotherhood, equality, you know. I mean, these are the banner issues. They're issues that if you spout these, you know, democracy for India, you know, you spout these banner words, and who can argue with you? Who doesn't want to be a friend of liberty and equality? You know, so that was one of the titles that the Jacobin Club went under. And there were others. There was the Society of the Friends of Truth, which was another occult group that the Illuminati created. So they don't like to just create one group. They create many groups. You know, the Society of the Friends of Truth, you look at Victor Hugo, Karl Marx, later on, they were all admirers of that, you know. So you can track all this and see how it all works together. And it all goes back to the Illuminati. And, you know, Van Duyn's father was Cornelius Van Duyn. He was one of the leaders of the Illuminati and leadership to William in 2000.
We couldn't hear you now. I couldn't hear you. His father was.
Oh, okay.
If you could.
His father was a leader before 2003. In 2003, the previous generation of leaderships gave it to the next generation, and that's when William Ingolstadt, Switzerland, that's when the baton was handed to William and his generation. And that's when David DeMarodi, you know, got involved with assisting him as the head of Illuminati. And of course, people were wondering, how is he going to approach things? Well, how he approached things was to try to take things back to the Bavarian Illuminati's Gnostic philosophers, you know, where instead of being openly Luciferian, you're like, well, we're rational, we're for liberty, you know, all this stuff that you saw, all these revolutions that they created.